Chosen one, still your mind. Be fully present, because what you're about to hear was not meant for the masses. This is not a broadcast for wandering hearts. This is a message sealed with divine authority and sent directly to the one who's been searching for a sign, aching for confirmation, waiting in silence for a word that could only come from God Himself. This decree was not whispered in secret chambers. It thundered from the throne of the Most High, and your name, yes, your name, was written in fire upon it. This is not imagination. This is not coincidence. This is the release your soul has been crying out for behind closed doors. You've stayed in a place that once sheltered you, but now suffocates you. You've remained in a house that once held peace, but now carries pressure. Can you feel it? The walls don't comfort anymore. The air feels heavier. The silence feels louder. That is not your imagination. That is the expiration of a season. God is not suggesting change. He is declaring movement. You are not being asked, you are being called. This is not relocation by logic. It is not a shift based on strategy or circumstance. This is divine intervention. This is holy evacuation. This is heaven saying, "My servant will no longer reside in a house I have not chosen." And before we go further, pause. If something in you is already shaking, if your soul recognizes this moment as sacred, don't let it pass without action. Comment 777 below as a bold sign that your heart is open and you're ready to move in obedience. And to every precious soul who has poured into this ministry through super thanks, thank you. Your faith has become fuel, and your generosity has become the bridge by which this message finds those who need it most. May God multiply your blessings in unseen ways. But here's where it becomes even more mysterious. The shift has already begun in the spiritual realm. Things are moving behind the veil. Documents are being touched. Conversations are being stirred. Alignments are shifting. Though your eyes may not yet perceive it, heaven's will is already causing the earth to respond. What if this house you're in, emotionally, spiritually, even physically, is no longer the container for your calling? What if God is not waiting on your plan, but you are already walking inside His? Something in June will start to speak. In July, the discomfort will intensify. In August, the gate will open. And by September, the door will be shut behind you, not in loss, but in launch. This message isn't for those who scroll casually. It's for the one who feels the Spirit pressing on their chest like a divine hand saying, "You can't stay here anymore." So don't turn away now. What comes next is not just a message, it is marching orders, and it will answer the very prayer you whispered when no one else was listening. Let's go deeper. Let's begin. God's chosen ones. God says, you will leave this house. Your new home is already waiting. Before God ever moves your body to a new place, He begins by stirring the soil beneath your soul. And lately, you've felt it. Not all at once, not with thunder, but in subtle, sacred waves. Something has shifted. It began as a quiet tug in the spirit, a restlessness not rooted in fear or dissatisfaction, but in something higher, a divine dislocation. For weeks, maybe months, you've noticed that what once felt like home now feels strangely hollow. The laughter that used to linger in the air fades more quickly now. The corners of the rooms whisper memories but not momentum. The silence has changed its tone. And that change, chosen one, is not by accident. It's not because you're ungrateful or overthinking. It is the Spirit of the living God removing His weighty presence from a place no longer assigned to your destiny. Heaven doesn't wait for you to be comfortable to start moving you. It waits for you to be obedient. This holy unease that you carry, it's not anxiety, it's alignment. It is the mark of those who are being repositioned for something greater. Do you remember Abraham? God told him, "Leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you." Genesis 12:1. But before Abraham ever set out, something inside him had to be unsettled. God began the move in his heart before he moved his feet. And now it's your turn. You've been pacing your home, haven't you? Walking into rooms and feeling a weight you can't explain. Sitting in your favorite chair but not finding the rest you once had. Waking up in the middle of the night without knowing why, sighing deeply into the darkness as if your spirit is reaching for something beyond the walls. This is not coincidence, it is calling. I'll tell you a story. There's a woman named Liana, a gentle spirit, a school teacher, faithful in prayer, living in the same small town for most of her life. 3 months ago, she began waking up with a strange urge to pack a suitcase. Though she had no destination in mind, her dreams were filled with visions of places she'd never seen. And then, one morning, a letter came offering her a new position in a different city, one she hadn't applied for. Her spirit leaped while her mind hesitated. But the peace she once had in her home was gone, and the silence in her kitchen had become a quiet command. Go. Now she serves students in a city she never thought she'd live in, and every morning she walks into purpose she didn't even know was waiting. Have you ever wondered why you feel so tired even after a full night's sleep? Or why your favorite music no longer brings the joy it once did? Could it be that the anointing that once covered this chapter has lifted, and heaven is gently whispering that it's time to turn the page? The writer C.S. Lewis once wrote, "We may ignore, but we can nowhere evade the presence of God. The world is crowded with him. He walks everywhere incognito. That presence you feel stirring in your spirit isn't restlessness. It's God walking incognito through the corridors of your soul, readying you for departure. Sometimes the weight you feel is not depression, it's transition. And that transition isn't punishment, it's preparation. There's a businessman named Adrian, known for building tech empires. But before he founded anything, he faced bankruptcy and the collapse of everything he thought defined him. One night, sleeping on a friend's couch, he said aloud, "I don't belong here anymore." That whisper became his first step toward building the future. He left that couch, not knowing what was next, only knowing what was over. Now, he testifies that the greatest breakthroughs are born in moments of holy discomfort. You see, just as Elijah had to leave the brook that once sustained him when it dried up, 1 Kings 17, you too must recognize when God's provision is no longer tied to the place you've been. The brook didn't fail, it fulfilled. And now, it's time to move. You've tried to fix it, haven't you? Rearranged the furniture, repainted the walls, bought candles hoping to reignite that feeling. But nothing external can restore what God has already removed his breath from. The peace is no longer in the room because the purpose has already left. What God no longer blesses, no human effort can revive. And yet, here you are, still trying to make sense of why the place that once felt like your sanctuary now feels like your cage. Let me be clear, you are not unstable, you are being unstuck. This unrest is divine. It's not the end of something, it's the opening of something sacred. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. And yes, you do perceive it. Not with your eyes, but with your knowing. Your inner compass has already started pointing forward, even if your circumstances have not yet moved. A missionary named Evan once said, "The Spirit will always prepare your soul before God moves your feet." This is the season of soul preparation, chosen one. That heaviness in the air, the silence in the kitchen, the tension in your chest, they are sacred signals. Heaven is not punishing you, It is promoting you. The Spirit is not abandoning you. It is aligning you. Every sigh matters. Every restless night holds purpose. And even the quiet that surrounds you now carries prophecy. Because before the Red Sea parted, there was a night of silence. Before Lazarus walked out of the tomb, there were 4 days of stillness. So don't resist the unease. Walk with it. Don't silence the whispers. Lean in. Don't ignore the weight. Ask yourself, what if this discomfort is not the enemy, but the exodus? God has already begun to move you from where you were, even if your body hasn't followed yet. And when He leads, He always provides. The new place is already set. You're not walking into the unknown. You're walking into what was prepared for you long ago. This is not superstition. This is spiritual sensitivity. This is not fear. This is faith moving in silence. This is not the end of home. This is the beginning of heaven's invitation. Not every place that looks peaceful is truly safe, and not every house that stands strong is blessed. There are places that seem secure to the natural eye, but to the eyes of the Spirit, they are heavy with invisible sorrow, rooms soaked with grief, air thick with old battles, ceilings echoing with words that were never meant to be spoken. And now, God has opened your spiritual vision to see what others cannot. You no longer see this house as a shelter. You feel the shift. You sense the fracture. Something in the atmosphere has changed, and you know it's not just your imagination. You used to walk through these rooms with confidence, pray with power, and feel the tangible presence of peace. But lately, even your worship feels resisted. Silence no longer feels restful. It feels charged. Arguments break out over nothing. Communication dissolves into confusion. Sometimes tears rise for no reason. Joy feels artificial. The home that once carried the fragrance of God now carries the weight of things you can't name. Why? Because you have outgrown the assignment of this place, and the Spirit is revealing a hard truth. The foundation is no longer holy. You've tried to cleanse the air with praise, to fill the silence with sermons and worship songs. You've declared Scripture over every doorway, anointed every window. But what you're contending with goes deeper than mess. It's defilement. Just as in Leviticus 14:34, when the Lord told Moses that if mildew or plague appeared in a house, the priest was to examine it, and if necessary, remove the infected stones. God has examined your house, and He is removing you instead. The house has been weighed. It has been found wanting. Not because you failed to steward it, but because it was never meant to hold your next season. Not every house is a sanctuary. Some are battlegrounds, tainted by the unseen wounds of previous inhabitants. That bed you sleep in may feel fine, but it rests on a floor marked by silent betrayals, addictions, hidden violence, or unspoken curses that never left when the people did. The griefs of former tenants linger in the walls, and unless God Himself sanctifies the ground, even the holiest efforts cannot remove the spiritual residue. I want to tell you about Carmen, a devoted worship leader who spent years in a home passed down from her grandparents. She loved it, its old charm, the memories. But slowly things changed. Her family became fragmented. Her voice began to falter. One night during prayer, she felt an overwhelming urge to step outside, and the moment she did, she wept. "This house is no longer mine," she whispered. Within weeks, doors opened for a move she hadn't even planned. And the moment they left, peace returned like a flood. Have you felt that too? The sense that something is off, but you can't pinpoint what. Have you noticed how light no longer lingers in the morning? How dreams have turned heavy? Could it be that heaven is whispering, not to change your furniture, but to change your location? What you're experiencing is not a failure in faith, but a shift in territory. The warfare is no longer about emotional moods or momentary frustrations. This is spiritual geography. And the Lord is saying, enough. You will not spend another night unaware. And consider this. Even Jesus did not stay where the Spirit would not flow. When he returned to his hometown, the Bible says he could not perform many miracles there because of their unbelief. Mark 6:5 through 6. If the Son of God himself honored spiritual atmosphere, how much more must you? There's a story about a cardinal in Italy who once said, "The devil often hides in places of comfort, hoping you'll stay where your calling already left." You see, comfort isn't always confirmation. Sometimes it's a trap dressed in familiarity. The house you're in may still be beautiful. It may still hold memories, your favorite colors, your photos, but spiritually it has become a tomb. What once protected you now imprisons you. What once held your joy now buries your peace. God is not just moving you to a new address. He is pulling you out of a spiritual war zone where the battle has turned toxic. Let me tell you about Joshua, a father of two, formerly a successful architect, who began waking up every day with crushing fatigue and unexplained illness. Doctors found nothing. His wife, once vibrant, grew anxious. Their children's sleep turned restless. One night, while praying in the living room, Joshua saw a shadow pass the hallway with no one there. That was the moment he knew. Within days, they found another home, and the very first night in their new place, they all slept soundly for the first time in over a year. Some battles are not psychological. They are territorial. You've sown into this home. You've loved it. You've prayed over it. But the Lord is revealing that no amount of effort can make cursed ground bear the fruit of peace. No blessing can flourish where the Spirit does not rest. That is not a rebuke. It is a rescue. The Lord has seen your silent tears. He's heard your inner groans. He's watched the subtle breakdowns, the tension in the marriage, the anxiety in the children, the confusion in your mind. You are not broken. You are being called out. Heaven will not let you stay imprisoned by something you were never meant to carry. You've reached the line, and God is drawing it in the Spirit. The grace to stay is lifting. The door is forming. Every delay from this point will deepen the weight, and the Father is not asking you to be afraid. He is asking you to obey. This is not the eviction of a house. This is the end of a war, and the beginning of your release. God does not move according to the clocks of men. His timing is not measured in minutes, months, or milestones. It is orchestrated in moments of divine alignment. And when heaven decides to move on your behalf, it will not consult your calendar. It will not wait for your schedule to clear or your understanding to catch up. It will interrupt everything with glory. This is what is coming for you. Your transition won't follow the path of predictability. It won't unfold through strategies or systems. It will arrive like the rush of a mighty wind, swift, sovereign, and undeniable. You've been preparing, praying, waiting, and wondering why the delay lingers so long. But when the shift comes, it will not unfold gradually. It will come suddenly. It will be one of those moments when heaven whispers, "Now," and everything on earth must obey. Have you ever watched how God moved in the life of Joseph? Years of obscurity, silence, and sorrow, betrayed by brothers, enslaved, imprisoned. But when Pharaoh called for him, in one day Joseph went from the dungeon to the palace. Genesis 41:14. No warning, no build-up, just one divine moment that redeemed all the waiting. And that same kind of divine acceleration is what is being prepared for you now. There is a door forming ahead that no human architect could have built, a divine opening that no key on earth can unlock, only the hand of God. You've tried everything, connections, strategy, hustle, favor with man, and yet nothing seemed to work. Why? Because what's coming isn't crafted by human hands. It is a heavenly decree. And when it arrives, you will recognize it not with logic, but with your spirit. You'll feel it resonate like a bell that rings deep in your soul. This is the moment. No need for confirmation, no need for consensus, just the knowing. Even now, the stage is quietly being set. Unrelated events are beginning to align. Phone calls that seemed insignificant are pointing to something greater. People are reappearing in your life. Ideas once shelved are being stirred again. What if all of this isn't random? What if the current chaos is actually the prelude to divine clarity? A powerful voice once said, "Doctor." Miles Monroe, a world-renowned teacher on purpose and leadership, the graveyard is the richest place on earth. Why? Because many never stepped into the timing of their purpose. But you will not be one of them. You've endured too much, not to arrive where heaven is calling you. Let me tell you about Amir, a quiet artist who spent years overlooked, painting in a tiny attic, rejected by galleries. One day, a world-famous collector stumbled upon one of his pieces at a local cafe. Within a week, Amir's work was in international demand. What had felt like wasted time was simply hidden preparation. God had not forgotten him. He had been arranging everything for the right moment, and when it came, it didn't crawl in. It crashed like a divine wave. The same wind is stirring around you. I will go before you and level the exalted places. I will break in pieces the doors of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. Isaiah 45:2. This promise isn't poetic, it's prophetic, and it's personal. It means the very things that resisted you before will collapse before you now. The doors that were once sealed shut will burst open, and when God opens a way, no force in hell or on earth can shut it again. Do you understand why the warfare has intensified lately? The financial delays, the sudden weariness, the emotional spirals, the internal tension. It isn't random. The enemy can't see the mind of God, but he can sense the movement of angels. He can feel the tremors of divine transition. And the pressure you feel isn't punishment, it's pushback. Because darkness knows it's losing its grip on you. This battle is not about where you are, it's about where you're going. The enemy doesn't fear your present, he fears your placement. Because when you finally step into your ordained territory, old generational cycles will shatter, depression will break. What was stuck in your bloodline will be loosed. What was forgotten in your family tree will be restored through you. This is legacy-level movement. So of course the resistance got louder. Of course the doubts returned. It's because your release is already echoing in the unseen realm. The ink of heaven has already sealed your new chapter. You're not waiting for God to decide. He's already decided. You're simply walking toward what's already yours. I'll leave you with the story of Leona, a pastor's wife who for years felt invisible even in ministry. Her prayers seemed unheard, her gifts unnoticed. But then, in one unexpected Sunday service, a stranger walked in, a woman from a global network seeking leaders for a new outreach program. Leona's name had been mentioned in a meeting she didn't attend. Her faithfulness, hidden for years, had found its voice in the right room. And in just weeks, she was speaking on platforms she never imagined. No striving, just divine timing. This is what awaits you. What you could never make happen through strength, God is about to release through sovereignty. And when he does, it will not make sense to the world, but it will make perfect sense to your spirit. Because deep down, you've known it. This is the moment, and nothing can stop what has already been written. The word of the Lord has already gone forth, and it will not return empty. His decrees do not waver, they do not expire. When God speaks, the atmosphere responds, creation shifts, and angelic assignments are activated. Right now, unseen to your natural eyes, messengers of heaven are already preparing the terrain for your next step. Invisible hands are clearing the path. Instructions have already been whispered into the hearts of those you're about to meet. Conversations are being stirred, plans are being rearranged, and divine timing is being set in motion, because your appointed moment is near. It will not wait for next year. It is not coming someday. Heaven is not indecisive. The appointed time is now. As the Lord declared in Exodus 23:20, Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Notice the certainty in his voice. The place is not being considered, it has already been prepared. The route is not under construction, it is already watched over by angelic forces. The delay was never denial, it was alignment. And when this moment breaks through, it will be swift. No forewarning, no long build-up. One phone call, one knock on the door, one email that changes the entire trajectory of your life. It will be so sudden that it will feel like stepping through a veil into a new realm. And when it happens, you won't wonder if it's real. You will know with every fiber of your spirit, this is God, and He has kept His promise. Can you feel it drawing near? That sense that the air around you is humming with something holy, that your prayers are heavier, your dreams more vivid, your heart more alert. That's not emotion, that's evidence. God is drawing you toward what He has already finished in the Spirit. Do you remember Peter, a seasoned fisherman who had toiled all night and caught nothing, yet at one simple instruction from Jesus, cast your net on the other side, he pulled in a catch so large it nearly broke the net. John 21:6. It wasn't effort that brought the breakthrough. It was obedience to divine timing. What had once been empty waters were suddenly overflowing. That's what's coming for you. And don't be surprised if this blessing bypasses your logic. God has never been restricted by human reasoning. What no labor could accomplish, what no planning could organize, what no contact could secure, He will deliver in one breath. And when He does, your departure will not look like escape. It will look like victory. Not a fleeing from hardship, but a rising into inheritance. You won't walk out of your current situation in desperation. You will walk out in worship. Like the Israelites who exited Egypt not as slaves, but as carriers of gold, you too will move forward, clothed in God's glory. Every delay will be redeemed. Every hardship will be reframed. Let me share a story. Just last year, a woman named Brielle, a nurse from a rural town, lost her job unexpectedly after a hospital shutdown. She had no plan, no savings, and no idea what came next. But just 3 days later, she received a call from a clinic in another city she'd never even applied to. They had somehow found her old resume. Within a week, she had a new job, fully furnished housing, and was placed in a department she had once only dreamed of working in. What had felt like a collapse was actually divine relocation. She later said, "I realized God had planned it all. I just didn't know I was walking into His promise." And now it's your turn. Heaven is not only calling you to a place, it has already provided for that place. The God who brought manna in the desert and caused ravens to feed Elijah by the brook, 1 Kings 17:6, is the same God who will sustain you. He's not waiting for your resources to align before He acts. He's waiting for your feet to align with His voice. You don't need to force the door open. You don't need to chase favor, network in anxiety, or plead for provision. The Father sees you. He has never been absent, and His storehouses are not short of supply. The God who multiplied a widow's oil, 2 Kings 4:1-7, who fed a multitude with a boy's lunch, John 6:11-13, who pulled a coin from the mouth of a fish to pay the temple tax, Matthew 17:27. This is your God. He does not require loans or explanations. He only requires your yes. Once you begin to move in step with His voice, the provision will flow with precision. Not early, not late, but in the exact moment it is required. Let me tell you about Lionel, a young missionary from Brazil who felt called to serve in Eastern Europe. He had no visa, no financial backing, and no support. But he bought a plane ticket with the little he had, believing God would meet him in the obedience. Just days before his flight, A businesswoman who had heard about him only once sent a full year's worth of support and accommodation. Lionel didn't have to strive. He simply had to step. This is your season to step, not because the way looks easy, but because the word is trustworthy. The shift will not come through logic or leverage. It will come through surrender. You are not being led into uncertainty. You are being guided into fulfillment. And it will be exactly as he said. Right now, even in the stillness that surrounds you, something sacred is moving beneath the surface. You might not hear the footsteps. You might not see the shift. But in the quiet places of unseen favor, provision is being prepared just for you. Somewhere, someone's heart is being stirred with a divine nudge, an internal pull they can't explain, to repay what is owed to you, to honor a forgotten promise, or to extend a hand you never asked for but always needed. A job opportunity is quietly shifting in your direction. A phone call is being scheduled with your name on it. A contract, a plot of land, a wire transfer, or even a set of keys, whatever the form, something is being released at the exact pace of your faith, not your fear. You may not be able to trace the orchestration yet, but heaven has already initiated the arrangement. The wheels are turning behind the curtain of the natural world. You're not waiting on provision. Provision is waiting for your alignment. This divine release isn't designed to tie you to this world, but to untangle you from everything that no longer fits your calling. Remember what the great writer and theologian C.S. Lewis once said in the Screwtape Letters: "Prosperity knits a man to the world. He feels that he is finding his place in it, while really it is finding its place in him." But God has no desire to entangle you with the illusion of comfort. What he is preparing for you now is not meant to root you in routine, but to free you for destiny. You are not being blessed just to feel secure. You are being repositioned for sacred purpose. Can you feel the shift beneath the questions in your heart? Have you ever wondered why, despite all logic, you still believe something is coming? That silent faith is the echo of God's voice confirming, "I have already made the way." The Apostle Paul wrote in 2 Corinthians 9:8, "And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, so that you, having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work." This move, the new home awaiting you, is not about real estate. It is a manifestation of obedience. This is not merely relocation. It is the unfolding of the will of your Father. Every step you take toward that new space is a holy exodus, a departure from fear into fulfillment. Maybe you've looked at your empty account, at your current situation, and whispered, "But how?" Maybe you've sat in the corner of your room counting coins and hoping for miracles. But the kingdom of God does not run on scarcity. Heaven's economy is not limited by numbers, timelines, or human systems. God's answer to you is not based on what you see in your hand, but what he already sealed in heaven and sent in motion. What if the real question is not whether God will provide, but whether you will trust the timing of what's already en route? What if the delay you've felt is not denial, but preparation for a release so exact it would silence your doubt? Let me tell you about Miriam, a single mother of 3 who had been living in a cramped apartment with a leaking ceiling and fading hope. For years, she kept praying for a home, a real one, with space, warmth, and peace. One morning, out of nowhere, a former client from 5 years earlier called her saying, "You were on my heart. I felt like I was supposed to give you something." That something turned out to be a fully paid deposit on a new home, and the first month's rent covered. When she stepped into the new place, the first thing she said was, "This wasn't luck. This was the Lord." The timing of your breakthrough will not follow human logic. There will come a moment that defies all explanation, a sum so perfect it almost feels too specific, an opportunity that arrives the very day you are about to give up. And when it happens, do not hesitate. Don't chalk it up to coincidence. Don't minimize the miracle. Recognize it for what it is: divine provision, sent on assignment for your purpose. This is not the kind of blessing that inflates ego. It won't be about flaunting wealth or impressing others. This will be the kind of provision that leaves people speechless, not because of how much, but because of how holy. It will be enough. Enough to leave, enough to begin again, enough to furnish peace, enough to cover deposits, legal papers, new furniture, even a garden to grow in. And still, there will be more, not in excess, but in grace. Pope Francis once said, "To change the world, we must be good to those who cannot repay us." In the same way, God is about to be good to you, not because of anything you did to deserve it, but because He is faithful to His word, and your obedience has prepared the soil for this miracle. And when the moment arrives, when the papers are signed, when your feet cross the threshold into the space God reserved just for you, your soul will echo the words of Psalm 118, verse 23. "This was the Lord's doing. It is marvelous in our eyes." Not a single detail will feel accidental. Every piece will fit. Every step will confirm that you were right to believe, even when nothing made sense. And you will breathe, not with fear, but with freedom, because this is not just about a house. This is about your calling being housed in a new place. This is about heaven saying to you, "You have stayed long enough on this mountain. Now rise. Your new home is already waiting." When God sets apart a new dwelling for you, He is not only crafting a physical space, He is also drawing a sacred line in the Spirit, a divine threshold, and this threshold is not meant for everything or everyone. As you approach the door of transition, you must understand that not all things are ordained to cross it with you. Some things were only meant to walk with you part of the way. Not every memory will survive the crossing. Not every burden should be carried over. Not every relationship has been given permission to follow you into the next season. And not every possession belongs in the place of promise. This move, though it may appear outwardly like a change of address or circumstance, is far more profound. It is a divine separation. God is distinguishing what was temporary from what is eternal, what served you for a moment from what will serve you in your mission. What was once tolerated in one season cannot be permitted in the next. You are not just stepping into a new home. You are stepping into a new level of consecration, and that requires leaving behind anything that would defile the purity of what God is preparing to release. Do you remember the moment when Israel stood at the edge of the Promised Land after 40 years in the wilderness? God did not just give them land. He gave them instruction. He told them to sanctify themselves. For tomorrow, He would do wonders among them. Joshua 3:5. You are standing in the same kind of moment, and sanctification always begins with release. There are emotional weights you have carried far too long, hidden wounds from betrayals that you never had the space to grieve, unspoken rejections that lingered like shadows behind your smile, patterns of self-doubt that whispered lies into your quietest thoughts. These things are not souvenirs. They are spiritual toxins. They are not meant to decorate the walls of your new beginning. If they enter with you, they will pollute the very atmosphere God intends to fill with His glory. And then there are the whispers from the enemy. Maybe you've heard them. You should be grateful for what you have. Don't expect more. You're asking for too much. This is all you deserve. These are not humble thoughts. They are spiritual chains designed to make you settle where God has called you to soar. You were never meant to believe the ceiling was the sky. God's truth does not shrink your hope. It stretches it. The voice that tells you you'll never afford more is not the voice of your shepherd. Let me tell you about a woman named Elena, a trauma counselor in her late 30s who had poured her life into others while secretly living in a space that drained her. She felt called to move, but the voice of her late father echoed in her mind. You're not the kind of person who lives in abundance. For years, she obeyed that voice more than God's, But one day, as she prayed in a small church in the countryside, she heard another voice say, "Why do you honor a lie more than you trust my truth?" That week, she let go of her father's recliner, a symbol of that limiting belief, and days later received an invitation to live rent-free for 6 months in a cottage owned by a client who was moving abroad. Elena didn't just change houses, she changed legacies. You are not just carrying beliefs, you are carrying anchors, and God is saying, "Release what I never gave you." This applies to people too. There are relationships that have masqueraded as loyalty, but were truly limitations. Some are loud and obvious, those who mock your growth, who question your calling, who belittle your dreams. Others are quiet, disguised as comfort, people who seem kind but subtly dim your light, who love you only as long as you stay small. God sees what you sometimes excuse. He knows who is aligned with your calling and who is assigned to distract you from it. He whispers now to your spirit, "Let them go. They were never meant to cross into the promise with you." It is the same principle he gave Moses in the wilderness. Not everyone who leaves Egypt can enter Canaan. Even the objects around you matter. There may be items in your current dwelling that carry a spiritual residue, furniture from seasons of depression, clothing that reminds you of who you used to be, letters or gifts from people who wounded your soul. These things hold memories, but more importantly, they hold energy. And if you want the presence of God to fill your new space, you must first empty it of the things that carry the scent of sorrow and defeat. This truth has been echoed since the days of old. When the angels led Lot and his family out of Sodom, the instruction was unmistakable: do not look back. But Lot's wife turned. She could not release her affection for what was behind, and in doing so, she forfeited what lay ahead. Genesis 19:26. That moment stands as an eternal warning. Longing for what God has ended is the fastest way to miss what God is beginning. There is a reason why Jesus said, "No one who puts his hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God." Luke 9:62. He was not being harsh, he was being holy, and holiness demands separation. What you carry in your spirit, your soul, and even in your hands must match the place God is bringing you into. And yes, this release may be painful. You may find yourself grieving not just what you lost, but what you must now willingly walk away from. There may be nights of tears, moments of hesitation, flashes of doubt. But you are not being stripped to be abandoned. You are being emptied so that you can be filled again, with peace, with clarity, with favor that won't compete with the clutter of your past. Think of Saint Teresa of Calcutta, known to the world as Mother Teresa. She once said, "You will never truly know God is all you need until God is all you have." Before she became a global icon of compassion, she spent years in spiritual darkness, releasing even her sense of certainty in order to walk in total obedience. Her life proved that surrender is not loss, it is access. You must now ask from a place of humble courage, what am I still carrying that cannot come with me? And when the Spirit brings it to your awareness, whether it's a person, a possession, a mindset, or a memory, do not delay. Lay it down. The door is near. The key is already in the lock, but only empty hands can turn it. The waiting you've endured, long and wearisome, was never neglect from God. It was the refining fire where you were not tested by loud trials, but by sacred stillness. The silence you thought meant abandonment was actually preparation. God was not ignoring you. He was clearing the air for a deeper encounter. Each unanswered prayer, each morning you awoke to stillness instead of breakthrough. Each night you wrestled with God's silence. They were not punishment. They were part of your purification. You are not forgotten. You are being made ready. And now the preparation is almost complete. Are you willing to leave behind what cannot follow? You were never forgotten. You were never ignored. Heaven was never silent in apathy, only in mystery. What you mistook for divine distance was sacred observation. Every step you took, every tear you shed, every prayer you whispered in the shadows, heaven was watching. Not to measure your strength, but to refine your heart. God had already prepared the destination, the new home, the space of fulfillment. But before he could hand you the key, he had to prepare the vessel, you. This wasn't a delay in the promise. It was the deliberate shaping of your spirit. While your soul ached for movement and change, God was watching for transformation and depth. You saw a closed door. He saw a heart still under construction. And in his wisdom, he waited. Not because you were lacking, not because you were insufficient. He waited because you were worth the wait, worth the fire, worth the refinement. A blessing without foundation becomes a burden. And he never wanted your blessing to break you. There were nights you stared at the ceiling whispering, "Have you forgotten me?" But the answer was always no. The silence you endured wasn't a sign of rejection. It was a holy sanctuary where your faith was being forged. Not in noise, but in stillness. Not through applause, but in the quiet persistence of trust. And even as heaven remained silent, you didn't walk away. You kept praying when the heavens echoed back nothing. You lifted songs of worship while your soul felt dry and empty. You whispered words of hope when logic screamed otherwise. And though your spirit bent beneath the weight of unanswered prayers, it did not break. It held. That was the test. Not whether you could understand the process, but whether you would remain faithful in the dark. Not every promise is preceded by clarity. Sometimes all you are given is trust. Just as Abraham was told to leave everything familiar behind and step into a journey with no map, no timeline, no visible outcome, so it was with you. God didn't offer him a 5-year plan. He simply said, "Go to the land I will show you." Genesis 12:1. Abraham obeyed, not because he knew where he was going, but because he trusted the one who called. And you have done the same. You have walked without guarantees. You have moved forward without applause. And heaven took note. Let me tell you about Liam, a young teacher who lost everything in a storm: his house, his car, even his teaching materials. For months he lived in a small borrowed room, jobless but prayerful. He applied to dozens of schools and heard nothing back. But every morning he still dressed like he had somewhere to go. Every evening he still taught a few local children for free, believing that purpose did not pause just because opportunity seemed silent. One day, a former student's parent called him, offering him not just a teaching position, but the leadership of an entire new school initiative. It had been forming quietly while he waited faithfully. Like Liam, your private choices have become sacred offerings before the throne. Heaven has recorded not your public speeches, but your secret decisions, the ones no one else saw, when you forgave without apology, when you gave even while lacking, when you chose not to retaliate, when you surrendered control instead of forcing your own timing. These quiet acts of obedience have echoed louder in eternity than any platform ever could. And now the voice of God draws near, not loud and condemning, but firm and filled with glory. You did not need signs to believe. You kept walking without guarantees. You chose to worship even without reward. You honored me when no one watched. Now I will honor you in the open, because you have pleased him, not with flawless execution, but with steadfast endurance. You didn't have all the answers, but you remained anchored. You didn't feel strong, but you never stopped standing. That endurance has now brought you to the very edge of fulfillment. What once felt like delay is now being revealed for what it truly was: divine preparation. Every quiet moment, every still season, every stretch of silence was strategy from above. God wasn't withholding. He was building. He wasn't punishing. He was protecting. Soon the wait will end, the silence will lift, the provision will arrive, and as you cross the threshold into your new dwelling, you will not carry bitterness, you will carry reverence. You will look back not with resentment, but with holy gratitude, because now you will see clearly. It was never wasted time, it was consecrated time. You were being made ready for the magnitude of what is next. Consider the words of Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch watchmaker who hid Jews during the Holocaust and later survived the horrors of a concentration camp. She once said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." Her life, marked by delay, suffering and silence, still became a beacon of light for generations. And so will yours. What God is preparing for you is not just a new location. It is a restoration of everything that was broken under the roof you're about to leave. Not just broken furniture or worn-out walls, but broken dreams, broken identities, broken confidence. He is restoring your spirit. He is rebuilding your heart. And when you step into your new home, you will not step in as the same person who once doubted, feared, or wept. You will step in as the one who overcame, the one who endured, the one who proved that quiet faith can shake mountains. And the foundation beneath your feet will not be stone. It will be every tear, every prayer, every silent yes to God. For far too long, the place you have called home has echoed with an invisible weight. It wasn't always loud, but it was always there, a heaviness that clung to the corners of each room. Conversations felt shallow, strained. Laughter still happened, but it didn't reach the eyes. There were moments when you paused in the hallway or stood in the kitchen, sensing that something in the atmosphere had shifted, not in a sudden event, but in a slow unraveling. Love never left, but it grew weary. Faith still lingered, but it learned to whisper instead of sing. And no matter how much you prayed, declared peace, or played worship music late into the night, there were days it felt as though even the walls resisted healing. You tried. You really did. You carried the hope of restoration on your back, believing that if you held your posture long enough, everything around you would follow. But now, God is revealing a deeper truth. This move is not just about your relief, it is about generational renewal. The shift is not only for you, but for everyone under your spiritual covering. Have you considered that the new place God is preparing might not just be a house, but a healing? That this address is not just a location, but a divine atmosphere. Where you're going, heaven won't just visit, it will abide. The Lord is not giving you a building to decorate. He is entrusting you with a space to consecrate. This is not compensation for surviving. This is not a reward for endurance. This is a holy altar where God will begin again with you and through you. A sacred space where warmth will return to what grew cold, where silence will give way to softness, where fractured relationships will find space to mend, not through pressure, but through peace. When you cross the threshold into that place, you will feel it, immediately, unmistakably. The shift won't be loud, but it will be undeniable. Something in the air will testify, this ground has been claimed by heaven. The weight that followed you for years will fall from your shoulders like a garment no longer needed. You won't have to strive for peace anymore. Peace will meet you at the door. Do you remember the blessing of Obed-Edom in 2 Samuel 6? When the ark of God, the very presence of the Lord, rested in his house for only 3 months, Scripture says, the Lord blessed him and his entire household. 2 Samuel 6:11. His home became a place of overflow simply because God dwelled there. That is the kind of presence God is about to bring into your new home. A presence that blesses not only the individual, but everyone within their reach. Your spouse, your children, your parents, even those extended family members who once pulled away or dismissed your faith. They will be drawn to the light they feel in your home. And it won't be because you've explained anything. It will be because God's presence explains everything. There will be visitors who step into your new living room, pause, and say through tears, "Something feels different here," and you will know it is not the decor, it is the dwelling of the Spirit. Let me tell you about Jonah, a carpenter and father of two who had spent years living in a house filled with quiet bitterness. He and his wife barely spoke unless they had to. Their teenage son stayed locked in his room, headphones on, retreating from a home that no longer felt like one. Jonah was on the verge of leaving, not because he stopped loving his family, but because he couldn't bear the spiritual pressure any longer. Then, one night, he sat alone and whispered, "God, if you want me to stay, you need to move me, not just physically, but in my soul." Within weeks, a door opened, an affordable rental, farther out, but surrounded by trees and stillness. From the first night they moved in, his wife began laughing again. His son started coming to dinner. Jonah later said, "I didn't just find a new house, I found my family again." Your story may not unfold exactly like Jonah's, but it will carry the same truth. This move is not simply relocation, it is restoration. In the house you are about to leave, you carried the emotional temperature of everyone else. You prayed when others didn't. You believed when others doubted. You broke silently to hold everyone else together. But in the new house, you will not carry that burden alone. God Himself will carry the atmosphere. There will be laughter again, deep, full laughter that doesn't feel cautious or conditional. Meals will be shared without undercurrents of conflict. Conversations will unfold without tension. You will sleep, not with one eye open, not burdened with spiritual warfare, but with rest that is sweet and sustained. This new house will be more than shelter. It will be a spiritual womb, a sacred environment where new things are conceived, birthed, and nurtured. What God begins there will not just reshape your life, it will reshape your family's legacy. It will realign relationships. It will rekindle faith in those who thought they had lost it. It will become the space where prayers long buried will suddenly sprout. Brené Brown, a renowned researcher and speaker on vulnerability and healing, once said, "Owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing we'll ever do." In your case, the story God is authoring is not just one of survival, but of spiritual renewal. And the new chapter begins with an address that heaven has already written in your name. Soon, when the front door opens and your foot touches that new floor, you will know this was not just a house. This was the place heaven chose to begin again, not just in you, but in the ones you love most. There was a time, not so long ago, when you sat alone at the table, hands trembling, voice breaking, asking God to touch the hearts of those closest to you. It wasn't a dramatic moment. No one else saw the tears, but heaven did. You whispered, "Lord, if you don't change something, I don't know how much longer I can carry this." You weren't angry, you were exhausted. That silent prayer, offered in desperation and love, didn't vanish into the air. It was caught, held, and folded into God's promise for your future. Because God is not just in the business of saving souls. He redeems households. He restores what is fractured beneath one roof so it can flourish under another. Your intercession did not go unnoticed. It became the seed of a generational shift, and now it is beginning to blossom. You may remember the ancient words of Joshua, spoken before all of Israel, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Joshua 24:15. That verse may have once felt like a dream painted on someone else's wall. A distant declaration you longed to claim but feared you'd never see. But what once felt far is now becoming near. What was once a hope is now turning into a home. The place God is preparing for you is not just a structure, it is a sanctuary, not a symbol of escape, but a house of revival. And when you walk through its doors, your heart will not be caught up in the finishes or furnishings. What will move you is what you feel. The beauty not of the space, but of the spirit within it. The real miracle won't be the walls or windows. It will be the restoration of reverence. It will be the laughter of children who once went silent, the softened voice of a spouse once hardened by stress, the quiet reconnection of family members who once grew cold. You won't need to force unity. You won't need to perform joy. The presence of God will be the thread that ties it all together, and peace will not just visit. You will watch it make itself at home. You've lived long between longing and uncertainty. You've stood in the hallway between what was and what could be. But something has shifted. You can feel it, not in your mind, but in your spirit. The waiting is no longer passive. The silence no longer feels still. The air itself feels pregnant with motion. Do you sense it? This isn't confusion. It is holy urgency. Something deep is rising. And though it hasn't yet touched the surface, no official paperwork, no key in hand, no numbers on a bank screen, the movement is real. The spiritual world is not waiting. It has already moved. Angels are not preparing to be dispatched. They are already walking the path ahead of you, clearing obstacles, aligning details, softening hearts and planting signs. And yes, those disruptions you've experienced lately, the tension that appeared out of nowhere, the plans that collapsed without explanation, they're not attacks, they're announcements. These are not setbacks, they're sacred shifts. God is breaking the patterns that once tempted you to settle. He is removing the comfort from the old, so you will not return when the new is revealed. Even the people around you are rearranging. Some are drawing closer, others are slowly backing away. You've noticed it, the changing conversations, the quiet exits, the new connections forming where you least expected. This isn't random. This is heavenly choreography. God is assembling your circle not for convenience, but for calling. You've already received glimpses, small, almost imperceptible confirmations, a message out of nowhere, a conversation that struck a hidden chord, an invitation that came when you least expected it. At first, you wondered if it was coincidence, but your spirit knew better. It's the same feeling the servant of Elijah must have had when he looked to the sea and saw only a tiny cloud, as small as a man's hand. 1 Kings 18:44. Yet that small cloud carried the weight of a supernatural downpour. Elijah didn't dismiss it. He said, "That's it. Tell Ahab to prepare. The rain is coming." You are now standing in that moment. The small signs you've seen are not symbolic. They are prophetic. That small cloud in your life carries the weight of a storm, a holy storm, not of destruction, but of release. A flood of provision, a wave of healing, a rain of favor. Let me tell you about Clarice, an interior designer who lost all her clients during a market crash. She had no income, no support, and almost no hope. One night she dreamt of a house filled with people who were singing. Not a worship service, but a family gathering. She woke up sobbing. A month later, an old mentor asked her to help renovate a retreat center for families affected by trauma. When she walked through the front door, she froze. It was the house from her dream. And those songs? She heard them during the dedication service. God doesn't tease, He confirms. And what you've been sensing lately, those moments of alignment, those flashes of recognition, they're not random. They're raindrops. The outpouring is coming. The signs aren't arriving someday. They are here, right now. And they carry a message. Heaven is no longer talking about the future. God is speaking of now, not next year, not eventually. Soon, before this year ends, your shift will be complete. But even before you see the key, the provision, or the door itself, know this. The spiritual pieces are already in motion. What you thought was delay was timing. What you called stagnation was strategy. And now, right now, the road is clearing before you. You are not in the waiting room anymore. You are at the threshold. And now only one thing remains: readiness, sensitivity, obedience in motion. When the door swings open, will your hands be free? Will your heart be steady? Will your spirit say yes without hesitation? Because the next move won't come with fanfare. It will come with flow. And your readiness will be the signal that heaven was waiting for. You must not ignore what you're sensing right now. That subtle unease, that holy discomfort pressing against your usual rhythm. It is not a disruption. It is a divine alignment. Every interruption to your normal routine, every delay that doesn't make sense, every stirring in your spirit that won't let you rest as you used to, all of it is part of a greater unfolding. Even your awareness of this message in this very moment is not coincidence. Heaven has orchestrated your steps so you would be here, now, reading this, recognizing that the movement has already begun. God did not bring you here to casually consider the possibilities. He brought you here to confirm what your spirit already knows, that it's time to rise, time to move, time to step across the line from preparation into possession. This is not about vague prophecy. This is not sentiment. This is tangible transition. You've been sensing the spiritual wind shift, and now the divine timeline has aligned. The signs have spoken. The Spirit has stirred. Heaven has issued its final declaration over you. Prepare to cross the threshold. Not someday, not symbolically, but practically, boldly, fully. And the preparation must begin where it always does, in the Spirit. Before any box is taped shut, before any new route is mapped, before a single door swings open, your heart must first kneel, not in desperation, but in dedication. This is not a prayer of pleading. This is a prayer of consecration. You are not begging God to make a way. You are welcoming Him into the way He's already made. Begin even now to dedicate every room in the house you haven't yet seen. Picture the walls, the hallways, the windows. Speak aloud. Let your presence dwell here. Turn your unseen future into a living altar. Let your prayer rise like incense to the throne. Lord, let this home be filled with you before it is filled with anything else. Because this is not merely about moving into a house. It is about enthroning the King before the key is even in your hand, before the paint dries or the furniture is placed. Your home must already be holy. And yet, prayer is not the only act of readiness. The Spirit now calls you to fast, not publicly, but quietly, not to earn a blessing, but to clear away the noise that clouds your hearing. This is not about deprivation. It is about refinement. A fast not of legalism, but of intimacy. A sharpening of spiritual perception, so that when the Lord whispers, and He will whisper, you will hear clearly. In the days ahead, you may receive instructions that seem small, a name that stands out, a sudden nudge to revisit a place, a dream you can't shake, a person's voice who resonates more than usual. These will not be random. They will be keys. Just as God guided Joseph through dreams that saved nations and warned the Magi through a dream not to return to Herod, Matthew 2:12, so too will He guide you with precision. But you must be able to discern, not with logic, but with the witness of the Spirit. Let me tell you about Dion, a young business consultant who was offered a lucrative promotion just weeks before he and his wife planned to relocate to a small city to plant a church. Everyone told him to take the job. It made perfect sense on paper. But the night before he had to respond, he fasted. In that silence, he heard God say, "What seems like elevation is actually a detour." He declined the job, moved forward with the church plant, and within 6 months, the community he served had doubled in size. What appeared foolish became the fulfillment of divine strategy. God may ask something just as delicate of you. You must be ready to act, not by consensus, but by confirmation. You are also being called to write, not because you might forget, but because what God is revealing is sacred. Sacred things deserve sacred handling. Start documenting what you feel, what you hear in worship, what you dream at night, what scripture begins to repeat itself in your reading. The Holy Spirit often speaks in patterns, and what seems like a fleeting moment may soon become the exact puzzle piece that unlocks the next door. Write down the phrases that keep stirring, the ideas that won't leave, the scriptures that shine brighter than usual. Don't wait until understanding comes. Write it while it's fresh, for just as Habakkuk was instructed to write the vision and make it plain, Habakkuk 2:2, so must you. Because what you are stewarding is more than personal, it is prophetic. And finally, you must now separate yourself from unbelief. Not everyone can walk with you into this season, not because you don't love them, but because they were not entrusted with this vision. The promise was given to you, not to explain, not to debate, not to defend. You are not required to dilute the oil on your life to make others more comfortable. In fact, entertaining voices of doubt at this stage can become spiritual sabotage. Even Jesus, before raising Jairus' daughter, asked the mourners to leave the room. Mark 5:40. Why? Because resurrection requires an atmosphere of belief. And so does your breakthrough. This is not the hour to explain what God has said to those who didn't hear it. You do not need their validation to move forward. You need focus. Protect your atmosphere. Guard your hope. Surround yourself with those who speak life into the promise, not those who question whether you deserve it. You are standing at the edge of something holy. The threshold is before you. The wind has shifted. The path has cleared. The angels are not preparing to move. They are already moving. What heaven requires now is that you respond, not in hesitation, but in holy motion. This is your moment to align your house, your heart, your habits, and your hearing with what has already begun. This is not the season to merely watch. This is the season to walk. You must now guard the atmosphere around your expectation as fiercely as a watchman guards the gate. This moment is sacred. The climate of your spirit matters more now than ever before. In this final hour, when the veil between promise and fulfillment grows thin, the enemy will try to distract, discourage, or delay through subtle means. That is why God is calling you to protect the air around your faith, your thoughts, your speech, your surroundings. Stay sensitive, stay clean, stay set apart. Already the appointed time is drawing near. Can you feel it? The pace of release is accelerating. What once felt stuck is now shifting. And the Lord is not merely whispering, He is declaring, when the call comes, move quickly. When the door opens, do not hesitate. When the key touches your hand, walk through it without turning back. This is not the moment to consult your fears or weigh the opinions of the crowd. This is the moment to move with obedience. The threshold you are about to cross is not ordinary ground. It is holy. It carries the weight of years of preparation. What lies beyond is not merely a new house. It is a divine season, sealed in heaven before time touched the earth. And you must step into it not with cautious curiosity, but with reverence, obedience, and full surrender. Like the priests who stepped into the Jordan while carrying the ark, you are called to step into the unknown with nothing but the weight of God's glory leading you forward. Joshua 3:14-17. This is not a suggestion, it is an assignment, because the house has already been prepared. The angels have gone ahead of you, clearing what you cannot see. The rooms are waiting, the atmosphere is aligned, and the key, it is not being made, it is ready. And so is the time. Let it be established now, without shadow or doubt. The word sent over your life has been spoken. It will not return empty. It will not fizzle in delay. It was not birthed from emotion. It was not crafted in the minds of men. It was released from the mouth of God, carried on the breath of His Spirit, and delivered at the exact moment you were ready to receive it. You were not drawn to this moment by luck. You were pulled here by purpose. through wildernesses you didn't choose, through storms you couldn't explain, through trials that nearly crushed your chest with pressure. And yet, still you remained. Still you believed. Still you stood. Heaven watched you kneel in the silence and still lift your eyes. The places you passed through were not detours. They were divine design. Do you remember the story of David? Anointed as a boy, but sent back to the fields. Called to be king, but first hunted like a criminal. For years he wandered in caves, misunderstood and pursued. But God used the wilderness to forge the heart of a shepherd into the soul of a king. You too have been shaped by hidden seasons. You have been made ready in obscurity so you can be trusted in visibility. What you have felt in this hour is not sentiment, it is confirmation. What has stirred within you is not emotion, it is alignment. The pressure on your chest is not anxiety, it is glory, resting upon you like a mantle passed from the throne room of heaven itself. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a widowed mother of 2 who had spent 5 years living paycheck to paycheck after her husband passed. She barely spoke of her dreams, afraid to hope. But one day, after dropping her kids at school, she felt an undeniable urge to stop at a particular cafe she had never entered. There, she met an older woman who noticed her journal. They spoke, connected, and within weeks that woman, a retired author, offered Elena the mentorship, funding and platform to publish a book she had been secretly writing for years. That book went on to touch thousands of lives. Elena later said, "That wasn't an opportunity, that was an assignment. That was the door I didn't know was mine." In the same way, you are about to walk through a door that was shaped for you long before you were aware of it. The delay was not denial, it was design, and now the design is complete. Listen closely to what the Father says over you now. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. You are not late. You are not disqualified. Every voice that said otherwise was wrong. The season of hiddenness served its purpose. The delay refined your patience, the silence deepened your roots, and the wilderness trained your spiritual senses. You do not emerge weak, you emerge wise. You are not stepping into this next place as the same person who once doubted, feared, or waited. You are stepping in with the authority that comes only through endurance. And so, beloved one, take this to heart. The time is no longer coming. The time is now. This moment is not to be analyzed, it is to be honored. What God is asking of you now is not passivity, it is participation, not observation but movement. Prepare your spirit, prepare your space, prepare your heart, because you are not waiting anymore. You are stepping in. Now the Lord makes his final decree. The time of emergence has arrived. The wait is over. The shift has not just begun, it has fully activated. That home you longed for in private prayers, that space you once imagined only in dreams, is no longer a metaphor. It is real, tangible, appointed, consecrated. Every delay was for this unveiling. The key that was promised is not symbolic. It is shaped, seen, and already in the hands of angels assigned to deliver it. The trembling you felt inside is not instability, it is holy alignment. What stirred in your spirit was not fleeting emotion. It was the Spirit of God announcing, "You are the one, and this is the moment." Though your natural hands may still feel empty, heaven sees them as ready. The Father has written your name not only in his book, but also on the door, the one no man can close. The angels are not waiting for orders. They've already been released, clearing paths, unlocking gates, and pushing back resistance that you never even saw. For years the word hovered over your life like dew before dawn, present but not yet poured out. But now it has fallen. The heavens have shifted. The decree has gone forth. What you carried in your womb in secret, you will now birth in full view. It is set into motion. Do not look back, not even for a moment. Leave yesterday's burdens where they belong. behind you. Do not drag guilt, regret, or delay into the place of glory. Do not waste breath explaining what God Himself has declared holy. Not everyone will understand, and not everyone needs to. When the moment comes, do not hesitate. Don't wait for validation. Heaven has already validated you. The Lord who went before you, who whispered comfort in your lowest valleys, is the same one walking beside you into this new season. He has never failed you. He will not start now. And when the door opens, it will not creak, it will swing wide. Not timid, not partial, but bold. The opportunity you've waited for will not require credentials. It will respond to obedience. The door won't ask for your resume. It will recognize your surrender. For in the kingdom, faith is the key, and obedience is the signature. When the key touches your hand, you will not tremble with fear, but with awe. You will weep, not from confusion, but from the weight of divine fulfillment. The question will not be, "Is this real?" but, "God, you remembered." Let every voice of fear now be silenced. Let every shadow of doubt be banished. Let every lie of the enemy fall to the ground, powerless and exposed. You are not going back to where you came from. You are going forward into what was always prepared. The word has been released, the seal has been broken, the season has shifted, and the mantle of confirmation rests upon you now like oil from heaven, fresh, heavy, undeniable. And nothing, no demon in hell, no whisper of fear, no human opposition can stop what God has decreed. This is not the beginning of hope. This is the manifestation of fulfillment. And when you step into that new place, whether it be a new home, a new assignment, a new mantle, a new territory, you will not fall to your knees in doubt. You will fall in reverence, not asking, "Why me?" but proclaiming, "My God, you remembered." You are ready. You were forged for this. Every hidden year, every tear, every unanswered prayer has not been forgotten. It has been fulfilled. The word is sealed. The house is waiting. The key is ready. And the glory that is coming will be greater than every loss, every delay, every disappointment you've ever known. Amen and amen. As we close this message, let your heart remain still before the Lord. Everything you have heard was not by chance, it was by divine appointment. This is not the end of a teaching, it is the beginning of a transformation. You are no longer waiting, you are walking into what was always yours. The door is ready, the key is prepared, and the time is now. May this word not simply inspire you, but move you into action, into prayer, into surrender, into obedience without hesitation. If this message has spoken directly to your spirit, we invite you to stand in agreement by commenting 777 as a declaration that you are ready, aligned, and positioned. We also want to thank those of you who have supported this ministry through super thanks. Your kindness, generosity, and faith are part of how this message reaches others who need it. Whether you give or simply watch and share, we are deeply grateful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more prophetic and spiritual insights, and share it with someone who needs this word today. May the Lord bless you, keep you, and cause His face to shine upon you. May your steps be ordered, your heart be strong, and your eyes stay fixed on the promise. The glory that is coming will outweigh everything that was lost, and you will walk into it with grace, power, and peace.